How are you doing? My name is Teppo Hudson and this is Sprinthack. Why is it so hard to just get the software done and working? Why does it take so long to get it into production? Well, building something is hard, and here I am removing all those speed limits of your venture. This time I will talk with Jonas Bjurhult, the Chief Product Officer of Safeture, a NASDAQ listed company from Sweden. In this video we will talk about how does the product operations organize information from customers to development epics? How do they estimate the feature impact? What is the relevance of technical knowledge in the product team? I'm excited, so let's get into it. Maybe if you'd like to start off by, for example, a little introducing what Safeture is and does as a business, and maybe about your roughly role there.
Absolutely, Teppo. Nice to meet you too, and happy to be here on the podcast. Yes, as you said, I'm Jonas Bjurhult. I'm Chief Product Officer at Safeture. We are a publicly listed Swedish company located in the southern parts of Sweden, in Lund more specifically. We build an employee safety platform. We help organizations locate and inform their end users if something is happening around the world, potential threats. We also give security managers an overview of risk and threats for their end users. So it's a platform. We build an app and a web portal. The web portal is for the admin users. We also have a lot of assistance providers that use the platform on behalf of their end clients. So we build the technology and they use it to make sure they can assist travelers and employees around the world. Mm-hmm. Safety, we're about 35 employees, I think, mostly located in Sweden, some sales offices in Europe as well. As for myself, I've been with the company for 7 years. I started out as an engineer, building apps and web stuff, basically. And after a while, I moved over to project management once we started getting large clients, and we needed someone to coordinate and also have the relationship with the customers, mm-hmm. bridge to the development department, basically.
I kind of previously talked with Safeture CEO about a little bit of this kind of a transition from more project based to more platform or product or SaaS product based service. Like, how do you see that shift been impacting your kind of like the actual tech part of the organization?
Yeah, I mean, we are in the middle of the shift. I'd say it's a long journey, and we are. I would almost say in the beginning of it, we had so many different customers throughout the years who had different requirements. We didn't really know who the end customer was, and it's only like recently we figured out that the end customer is this assistance provider that used our technology. So we scaled away some of the parts that we did. For example, we had an analyst team publishing alerts 24/7 based on an AI engine that we built, and we outsourced that to third party instead, focusing on the platform, tech platform instead of the content. So that's one shift. But I see it. We have a lot of legacy code that still lives in the platform that I would like to cut away the coming years. That's kind of my mission here, and I know Magnus supports that as the CEO. but it's hard when we have customers, large enterprises that pays, and we're still not a profitable company. So I think it's going to take some time, but we're taking small steps, and we're in the middle of building a product strategy where we kind of more define what we really want to do, and we based on that we will be able to focus and be even more narrow in the what we build.
Then as a kind of a chief product officer, I think you run the product part or product unit on the company. How closely do you work with or like how closely do you work with maybe sales? How closely do you work with engineering, and what's the product unit's role between there?
Yeah, as I came from the engineering team, I know them well, and I know how they work, and I am very much involved in their processes. We actually just recently completely reworked the processes, how development works, how they prioritize things, and how that all the product feature is prioritized along with the backlog stuff for devs, like bugs and refactoring and stuff like that. So all that has been reworked together with me, I'd say, or I've been involved in that process at least. So I actually tried to stay away a bit more because I was too heavily involved in the details with my history. But I think I went a bit too far because I thought that, okay, I have so much to do. If I spend less time with the engineers, I will make time for everything else that I need to do. Being a product manager, I'm kind of everywhere. So I think I actually, last month, I realized I need to go back to the engineer and work even more closely, especially now since my team is growing and I get help on other parts like customer research and insights and UX. That's now part of my team that kind of new in the last 6 months.
How, like, of course, your background from like being in the engineering and being actually software engineering these services, how do you think that kind of helps you in, or as a guidance to any product team? How much do you think they should know about the kind of engineering practices or coding, or understand what limitations certain technologies are when you're planning the next features and so on?
I think it really depends on what kind of product organization you have. So if you have like the product management where you focus more on the customer or the sales side of things and insights and research, and then you have a product ownership where I think that's a good advantage if you have the technical deeper knowledge like I have. So that's what I'm focusing most of my time on. But I don't think it's necessary. I think you can learn from and be helped by the developers in the more technical matters. So I think you of course need some kind of technical competence, but it's not a requirement per se to have this background. I think it's advantages for me. I know I speak the language. I know instantly what they're talking about when they describe problems or stuff, that how it works.
Yeah.
I also think that it tends to be a bit more maybe I get too much involved in some parts that I should just let go, and takes time, of course, and it's a bit of both.
Yeah. So if we think about that kind of a communication, because as far as I understand, the product in Safeture is kind of there between the business and the tech, and I bet there's a lot of kind of a knowledge when you do this kind of a customer research and do these kind of validations and estimations what should be done. Is there a certain workflow that you utilize to kind of communicate the next steps toward the tech team, the engineering?
Yeah, it's I can describe the workflow from start. We use a tool called Product Board. Maybe you're aware of it. I think it actually changed the way we working when we implemented it. So I got a lot of aha moments there when we started using this tool. Okay, this is how we should work. So we start by, of course, structuring and gathering all the input from customers, mostly through our customer development team who has the direct contact with the clients. I think we're moving to us in product being a bigger team now, the last months, taking that part ourselves. So we will have more direct customer contact, be more upfront, and before we actually start implementing, having customers or key customers involved in the product development or the requirement making. But once we have the insights, we tag them to different features, we weigh them by importance for the customers, and we use this as a decision for what to build next as one part of the prioritization tool or a process. And then we also weigh all the features based on different criteria, how it affects business, how we can increase usage, and so on. And these parameters are used as in a transparent way in the product board tool, so everyone can actually see what's going on there and why we build stuff and what's on top of the backlog. So that's something we are working on right now. We are striving to improve it. There are always stuff we think that we should do better, and but I think this tool is kind of key part in making this transparent and smooth workflow, I say.
Definitely, it sounds like you definitely, like you gather insights and you organize them and prioritize them. That's probably what a lot of products led team basically do. But how do you, like what I see personally, the teams do very much differently is that how do they kind of describe the feature and what should be, like how the feature should behave. So how detailed do you go in describing the kind of let's say feature to the tech team, or do you leave it very open and let the tech team themselves decide how to kind of solve the feature? Or
it's a very good question. Let me say that we used to be really bad at this department. So we basically were a bunch of engineers building stuff directly ordered from customers or coming from sales. So we had no product organization before a few years back. So we just, everyone was aware of how everything worked, and we just didn't really need this kind of documentation. And that's been painfully obvious that that's when we started growing, that we needed this. So the way it works now, we gather insights and we describe the features in the backlog, just notes, simple markups on things we think we should build, and then when we actually decide to go ahead and build something, we have a pre-study to investigate more how it should work. And once the pre-study is done, this is actually a new process I'm describing. So it's based on the last week's discussions. We haven't really implemented. This is the intent.
Very new stuff then.
yeah, very much. So when the pre-study is done, we know more what kind of effort will it be, and then we go back and reevaluate if we want to actually build this. So there's a process that we can say, okay, this is too much work, we're not going to do it now based on the pre-study. But if we approve the pre-study, and then we go ahead and we set up a discovery with more details, I say, than the pre-study. So we set up basically a meeting with involved developers, some of the senior ones, discuss all the parts in a meeting. We in the product team document it. We set up a background rationale why we do it. What are the acceptance criteria? Do we need to deliver some UX design? And also a high level to-do list, so we know more from a product point of view what needs to be built, and then we hand that over to developers for them to break it down even further. And of course, we're sometimes parts of the more technical discussions that comes after that as well. But basically, that's how we do it now, and I think it's much better than before.
Does the engineering team has some kind of architect in a way, looking how this feature or this, let's say, technical ideas fit into bigger system, so to say?
We actually had this discussing. No, I don't. And there are people in the dev team who's much better than me on that part. So I happily leave that over to them. But the dev team are working on how to handle these kind of things, because we sometimes now we didn't have that kind of architectural role or like a sync after the breaking down and how this should work before building it, and then it turns out in the review when everything is finished, okay, why did we build this way? I mean, it should have been differently built or whatever it could be, which is kind of too late. So now we're looking into having a kind of at least two of the senior engineers being reviewing this solution proposal. This is how it's going to work from a technical level. And make sure that we don't make these mistakes again. So I think it's really good. We're there's a lot of things that happened this last few months, I'd say, in this department. So I'm happy to speak about it here.
Yeah, and I bet it's good to involve that kind of discussion. Just asking mainly because I've seen, let's say, a lot of more like older companies, bigger companies, corporations, when you have a lot of legacy code and legacy systems, it tends to get very complicated, and then suddenly nobody knows how to implement something because nobody knows how
and that's something we're struggling with right now as well. We have built a lot of stuff and it's custom, and it's kind of all over the place in some areas, and we are discussing how to evaluate this refactoring work that I really see that it needs to be done, because it affects the entire organization. It affects us in product when we spec new things. It affects the customer dev team. They can't explain things how they work because they're too complicated. And it affects like the sales and building parts, because we have so many different options and tweaks we can set up the system for different kind of business cases. And that's something I want to really make sure we clean up, because it's become really obvious to me what the problem or what's the effect of the problem.
Yeah. Is there a certain kind of metrics from the product like team's point of view that you try to follow, let's say especially on the features, in a way, like you get something done or defined, and then the technical team implements it and it goes live to the platform? Do you try to break down, let's say, feature level metrics, or do you just follow in general the metrics, how the platform operates and so on?
Really good question as well. We are currently implementing a tool called Pendo.io. You know, it's an analytics tool, one part of it at least. So we didn't really look into this from a product level before, and we're really setting up these structures to measure both. I mean, stuff like what happens before and after we launch a new feature, and make sure we follow up on the outcomes of a product launch. So we are in the early stages of doing this, but we're not there yet. We have plans to implement these kind of data-driven analytics into the decision-making process as well, for what to build. I mean, if there's something, we have a lot of customer requests, but we see that actually no one is using it, we might take that into consideration for deciding to go ahead or not. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff happening there, I'd say.
So coming soon, in the sense.
Yes.
Especially a new developer, like if they join Safeture right now, do you somehow, or is there a certain onboarding process that you help them to understand how the features and how the product works right now?
Not really from a product point of view. I mean, there are company-wide onboarding schedule, like 2 weeks, where we have a meeting set up with the different departments and the key stakeholders for different areas, team leaders basically. But it's not structured more than that. And then of course, the development team has their own documentation, but there's a lot of stuff happening there as well. I haven't really followed it. I know they're building easier, making sure the environment is easy to set up using Docker, etc. But we haven't really done before. It's been a kind of a pain to onboard new developers. So everything stemming from, we had a small team that worked there quite a long time, and now suddenly we've grown in a short amount of time. We really need to fix those things. So I see a lot of things happening, but we could do a lot more there, I say.
Yeah, but I like talking with you and Magnus previously, I see that personally, I think Safeture is going towards very modern way of, and easy to understand way of like planning, and that I do think it's important for developers to enjoy the work if the product descriptions demand from the product is clear and easy to understand.
Yeah, I agree definitely, and it will come a long way, but there's so much to be done to improve this even further. And I feel like I'm kind of new, even though I've been product manager 3 years, but I have no reference point from previously workplaces. I worked at larger companies. I never saw the product department or product manager at all. We're just a large tech team building smaller stuff. So I have no real point of reference from how others work. I've just read up on how you should do in these kind of things in a modern way. So I sometimes feel that everyone else is so much more advanced in this department, but maybe you're right. We're a bit modern.
Yeah, and I think coming from engineering, you understand at least the pain of the engineering and how the product can help that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Is there a certain thing that like in Safeture feature list or product in general that you are really in a way proud of, or you think is pretty unique? How is maybe implemented or created?
I've been kind of really self-critical on a lot of stuff that we built, which is kind of an issue. But I mean, when we hired a UX developer, I think it was back in January this year, and he's super skilled, and that was like just okay, this is how we should work. Everything became so much easier to me when we kind of had this competency, and immediately when we started releasing stuff that he's been involved with, everything felt more thought through from the user point of view. So I'd say it's not a specific feature per se, but it's getting much more better when we have the UX in place in the product team as well. So.
Great. Roughly, more like starting to wrap this up, this discussion about the product. What do you think is kind of a what is the mission of Safeture that you think, if a developer or a designer would like to join Safeture in the future, what do you think is the mission that they would be kind of subscribing to?
Oh, that's a good
like
question.
A selling point.
Selling point is that we have a super exciting product. I mean, we help people in need, basically. That's what it boils down to. If someone has an emergency, you press the button in the app and you get help from our partners delivering extraction from a country or whatever it might be. So it's kind of a cool product with a lot of different use cases. Obviously, too many maybe, but I think that's the key fact to bring up to new guys.
Cool. Thank you, Jonas. I think it's been really interesting to hear, definitely the way kind of you describe the process of understanding the features and putting them down in towards development, and how you've kind of organized that thing. And personally, I'm very happy that like the engineering side is growing towards the product, because then it keeps the tech part more understood in the product team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'd say the product team should consist of many different competences or backgrounds, so they actually meet in the middle of sales, marketing, and dev team. But I agree. I'm happy to represent the engineering part in the product world. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion, Jonas, and I wish you all the best and Safeture all the best, and I hope to see you guys getting your mission, accomplished.
Thank you very much, Teppo. Enjoy being here.